What's up and welcome back, guys, to Talking Nutrition. Today's episode 67. I just had to look it up. Today we're joined by Jessica, the sports dietitian. What's up, Jessica?
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Good to have you. Jessica's a registered dietitian, used to work with LA Clippers, also UCLA. You're recently on Fox 11, Good Day LA, right?
That's right.
Awesome. And you're probably one of the funniest people I follow on Instagram. I'll say that right.
Thank you.
Too bad we don't have the banana outfit today, though. But
oh, man, I can always bust
it out. It's all good. Cool. So I want to bring Jessica on because I've been talking a lot with my clients about, fueling for training, recovery. I feel like rest days also, like that's been like a topic that's been coming up quite a lot. But long story short, just making sure that when you go to the gym, no matter, your type of training, CrossFit, whatever, even if you're into running and stuff, just making sure that you actually get that fuel, that you actually recover and eventually also look like you work out, and not keep spinning your wheels. Because that's the thing. Like I see a lot of people go really hard, especially in CrossFit. And then it's like, still kind of like under eating. I'm still a little bit scared of carbohydrate and stuff,
Sure.
But before we get in, I want to do a quick little introduction about yourself, like your own journey, like what kind of led up to you becoming a registered dietitian.
Yeah. So let's see, I've been a dietitian now, I think it's like 5 or 6 years, primarily working with athletes. That was always the goal for me, but it came through kind of my own journey with nutrition, body image, fitness, and that sort of thing. I struggled with eating disorders throughout my teenage years, early adult years, struggled with body image, my relationship with food. And then as I kind of just got on this like healing journey of like wanting to get past that and wanting to get over that, really launched myself into the gym, which wasn't maybe a great scenario at the time. But through that, I really discovered the healing power of nutrition and then what nutrition could do for performance. And I was starting to see just some incredible results in my own personal health, but also in my fitness, in my performance. And so that's really fascinated me of wanting to work with athletes. And so a lot of the things that I talk about are things that come from a place of like, I've done this, I've seen this, both personally and professionally. So I worked at Mamba Sports Academy, which was Kobe Bryant's training facility, today being 8/24 Kobe Day. And then worked at UCLA with men's and women's basketball there as their sports dietitian. And then just recently 2 seasons with the Clippers, doing everything from like nutrition coaching and actually setting the foods that they're eating and helping them with their chefs or whatever the case may be, to doing like biomarkers and lab work and supplementation and everything with them. So really just their kind of coach in their corner with everything related to nutrition, supplements, hydration, etc.
That's awesome. That's cool. Did you also do some bodybuilding yourself?
I did. Yes.
I remember seeing some photos on Instagram every now and then. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. I did some bodybuilding back in the day. And that was kind of, in that phase of it, like for me personally, bodybuilding was kind of an unhealthy journey for me.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot of like really interesting principles out of it that I was able to apply later in a more healthier way of managing both my training and my rest of my life.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like, because especially with Instagram and stuff, with bodybuilding stuff, it's like cool. You see people are jacked and people think like, oh, I want to do that too. And sure. Is it very healthy though? I don't know. For a lot of people, it's probably not your best bet. But where would you say, like for you, was kind of like that point where things started to kind of like, I guess, like when you started to actually do what was like right for your body and feeling better, kind of moving away from like that, an unhealthy spot?
Yeah. So I was doing the bodybuilding thing and realizing, yes, it wasn't that healthy for me. I was having to get to like these extreme calorie deficits and like felt terrible. Hair was falling out. Like it was not you're ripped and you have this 6-pack, but at what cost, right? For me, it wasn't at a cost I was willing to give. Right. But I got interested in rugby and I started playing rugby, women's rugby. And that was kind of like a big shifting point for me, both with body acceptance, but also like moving my body in a way that was like, I'm doing something that I really enjoyed, and not because of aesthetics, but because like I wanted to perform well and I wanted to see what my body could do and how powerful I could be. And so I started focusing on fueling more for performance and power more than aesthetics, and just saw like, I feel like if you're doing those things, if you're fueling based on movement, aesthetics, and health, like you actually do see some aesthetics things come as a result of that as a side effect.
100%. Would you
Yeah.
say that with the athletes that you coached, obviously you're fueling for training and stuff, were some of them also kind of looking into, hey, I want to get leaner, build muscle, or was it really just mostly just performance and the rest was kind of like a byproduct?
All the time, they definitely like they care about being shredded too. They care about
Oh yeah,
looking good too.
yeah,
They really do. And so that's always an interesting conversation because, I think people think like a high level athlete has a certain look and in certain positions and certain sports, they have a certain look, but really truly like there's no one body type for any, and the size and shape in which you perform best at or anybody performs best at can be very different from someone in the same position in the same sport. But what I always tell them is like we want to focus on any body composition goals outside of our competitive season. So outside of that time when we really want to perform our best, and you can apply these same principles to like your gym goer, your CrossFitter sort of thing, is like the time when you want to be performing at your best, we need to fuel for that. We need to fuel for maintenance, for optimizing performance, and not for like a deficit or cutting or being lean, right? Like those goals we should work on in an off period time or a downtime. Some people have like their bulk season or their cut season. I don't think you need to go that extreme, but as you like, just like an athlete does, you can periodize your training and have this training period where it's more high volume and a lower volume time. So that time outside of the competitive season is where we want to make our body composition changes. Whether we want to go up or go down, that's really where the bulk of it is, where I coach them on doing it. Because if we are trying to lean out and drop weight in season, we put ourselves at risk for injury, and we're not performing at our best if we're not fueling at our best.
Yeah, that's a huge one too. Like I think that one gets neglected a little too much too. It's like, well, I'll just cut and I know that my performance is going to drop a little bit, and that's fine. It's whatever. But no, you're likely to get injured too, and then at some point, if you don't watch out, like you're going to be forced to take more rest, and then you cannot train. So it's going to be not great for performance at all. So
Right.
it's that important conversation to have with people, right? Hey, like cool. Like right now it's performance. We can have fat loss or bulk or whatever, like later down the road, but one thing at a time.
Sure.
Which is hard, right? Because everyone wants everything like at all times.
Everything. Yes. Instant gratification always.
So let's actually break this down into kind of like pre-workout, posts, maybe even during, and like hydration and stuff too. A lot of stuff to unpack. Let's start with pre-workout because especially now, and I'm sure you get these questions all the time. I swear, anytime I put up like a Q&A box or something, it's like you get questions about protein or creatine or
Yes.
pre-workout, and then not the stuff that you actually want to share, But let's start with pre-workout because with that one, I feel like a lot of people have the idea like that's the thing that's going to unlock my performance.
Right.
Let's break that down a little bit. So let's start here. So would pre-workout actually give you energy?
Not true energy. So like a caffeine of any sort. So caffeine can be a performance enhancer. My big thing is like, disclaimer, if we're talking about pure caffeine or coffee or whatever, right? Like can be a performance enhancer. Not everybody responds the same way. Some people are non-responders. Some people it makes super anxious. So for some people, caffeine's not great. I also feel like if you are having to turn to caffeine or a pre-workout or supplement all the time, then it's probably like a ding, ding, ding. You're missing something. Like we should be actually having food and we're probably missing food. But a pre-workout or caffeine, it blocks the receptor in your brain that tells you that you're tired. So it doesn't actually provide true energy. We only get true energy from calories, and carbohydrates are the main one that we get. But when we're talking about exercise, carbohydrates are our preferred fuel source during physical activity. So a pre-workout may be helpful at times, but I feel like there's so many potential issues with pre-workouts. They can be filled with a bunch of junk. They can not be tested appropriately. They can be contaminated with things. If you're a tested or if you're tested in any way, you get out of your analysis. But if you're not, you still could like set yourself up with, dosing yourself with things that you don't need that could be problematic for you. And again, if we're using pre-workout all the time, it might be a Band-Aid when we really actually need some carbs. We need some real energy from food.
Yeah. And that's really what it is for the most part. Like most pre-workouts is just super high dose caffeine and then a couple other things here and there,
Yeah.
Which again, it's fine to have it, but like relying on it, like you said, it's kind of like that red flag, like we gotta got to make sure
Right.
that we actually fuel for that. Love that you already brought this up, because carbohydrate, once again, especially
Yes.
I feel like with CrossFit, where there's like or paleo is not as big anymore in CrossFit, luckily, but like that was one of those things, it just doesn't add up. And with all the keto, I know you and me joke about this on Instagram and stuff, like all the keto stuff and the carnivores, like there's still so much shit talking on carbs, but like that is our preferred fuel source, right? Like that's what we need to perform well.
It really is. And I think that for people, I think a lot of times they just don't understand. They don't understand the function and the role in the body. They don't understand how nutrition and how to pair things appropriately and how to eat in a way that helps them with their goals, where you don't have to go through these restriction phases. You don't have to go through these like times where like, I can't have this and I can't have that. Like there is a way to just eat the stuff you want to eat within moderation and eat carbs and not be gaining weight and performing really well.
100%.
Yeah.
So let's get more specific. So what would be a good kind of like pre-workout meal before
So
training?
when you say meal, I'm thinking like meal. I'm thinking a few hours out, because we need to digest whatever it is we're eating. So if we're having like let's structure our day. Let's say like we're gonna work out in like the afternoon or whatever. Let's say we have a meal before. I would say if it's going to be something that has like fat in it or higher protein in it, if it's a complex nutrient meal, we want to have that probably 3 to 4 hours out, because we need time to digest. Protein and fat and fiber take a while to digest. And when we're active, our body's not putting a lot of effort into the digestive process. It's working on fueling our muscles and sending blood and everything to our muscles. So that's when you get stomach upset. If you like, you ate something and then you're like jumping around, whatever, jumping in training, and you're all of a sudden feel like food's going to come up or come out, right? It's probably because we ate too close to training. But there is a window within an hour before training where we don't want to necessarily have a meal, but we want to have carbohydrates. So we want to keep it simple, easy to digest carbohydrates. This can be fruit, dried fruit. This could be like even like rice or pasta, but we want to keep it like simple sugars, simple carbohydrates. You could have fruit chews and fruit snacks and that sort of thing. Like there's a bunch of different options, but it's simple carbohydrate is what we want before exercise. For people that have a hard time eating food and then rolling into exercise, you can also choose like a liquid. So some sort of liquid, some sort of beverage that has carbohydrates in it, but generally about like 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates if we're rolling into an hour, 45 minutes to an hour of a moderate to hard intensity exercise.
Cool. That was actually going to be my next question, like how much. So that's great. No, thank you. Like, I think that's awesome, because I think people like those like specific little things, because then they can actually look it up and they can
Sure.
look at, okay, well, was I actually fueling my training, or could I have a little bit more? And yeah, around training, like it's so good to have those carbs. I always tell people, like if you're trying to increase, and you're actually having a hard time, or you're not really sure like when, like do it around training, because you're going to benefit off it. You're going to be able to use it.
Totally.
That being said, I also get a lot of questions about fasted training, especially fasted cardio in the morning, right? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a waste of time. Who wants to do that, right? Like research shows that it's not really it's not an effective. It's not as effective as people believe it is, if at all, right? And so you would actually like just think about this. Like if you're going on a road trip and you're driving like a far distance, and your car is sitting on E, you're not going to get very far. You're going to have to take it kind of slow, right? Like to preserve that gas if you don't have much left. Like it would make a lot more sense for me to fill that up so that I can get the most out of that car trip, right? And so it just doesn't make a lot of sense to do it, because you're not getting the most bang for your buck in the session. You're not actually like burning any more calories than you think you're burning. And I think that some of the research that I've seen is like it may be helpful for like that last little percentage of stubborn fat, but if you're someone that has a good amount of weight to lose, or you know whatever, like it's not going to be the most beneficial way to lose weight or to lean out.
Mm-hmm. What would you say, like, so if someone really likes, training fasted, they're like, hey, wake up in the morning, I really don't like having something. I mean, I'm still going to recommend people to have something anyway, and maybe
Yeah.
something light. But what would you say there?
I would say to make sure that we're making up for it afterwards. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
and that doesn't mean like have a huge feast, but if we're looking in our day and like like, don't just have like lunch and dinner. Like say you're having 3 meals a day. Like don't like, I'm skipping breakfast and having lunch and dinner. No, like you still need to find a place to put those calories that your body requires. We still need to recover properly. It's still a good time where you can get carbohydrates in to refuel your energy stores that you've probably completely depleted now. So you still want to get carbohydrates and protein in, and still make sure that if you've skipped a meal that you're replacing that, and make sure you're getting those not those macronutrients only, but those micronutrients as well.
Awesome. 100%. Yeah. I think that even plays into sometimes people even struggling, like just eating enough.
Yeah.
Because that's also what happens. It's like, well, I don't like to have my breakfast before training. Okay, cool. And then, like you said, it kind of leads into, well, I'll just skip breakfast. And then by the end of the day, it's like, well, I barely ate. Now I have to catch up for my macros, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And again, not going to get the results,
No, because then you end up making you end up adding, eating a bunch at nighttime to make up for it, or making like probably less healthy choices at nighttime because you're starving, you're hungry, you got to just cram stuff in or find the convenient thing. And if you've not allowed yourself enough time to digest, then you're going to bed with a stomach ache or waking up with a stomach ache. And it's just like a nasty cycle.
So what about post-workout?
Post-workout.
Like how soon? Yeah. So how soon, like after training, would you have someone have a meal, for example? Because I think that anabolic window claim is still kind of like hanging around a little bit,
Yeah. So I've seen someone rephrase it as like, it's less like a window, more like a garage door. And meaning like that. Yeah. Because like, there's really, as far as like protein specifically post-workout, right? There's research that shows that it's less important to nail that within like that hour post-training, which is the typical window. If you're getting protein intake a good amount throughout the day. But if you're not, which a lot of people actually aren't, like getting enough good protein intake throughout the day, then that makes that window even more important, or makes sure getting that piece in more important. I just say there's 3 hours for recovery. Refuel with carbohydrates. So we've depleted our carb energy stores in our muscles, our muscle glycogen, our liver glycogen. It's perfect time right afterwards to put that carbohydrate energy back into those tanks for the next training session. So we want to refuel that. Repair our muscle fibers with protein. So like training and lifting weights doesn't make your muscles big. It actually like tears your muscle fibers apart. It's the protein that comes in and repairs that helps you to maintain and grow your muscle mass. So protein, I usually say it afterwards too. And then rehydrate with fluids and electrolytes. So we're sweating, fluids came out, different people lose different types of electrolytes in their sweat, or different concentrations, I should say. The main one being sodium or salt. So we also want to get some of that back in as well. So refuel, repair, rehydrate. And you said how long? I say, yeah, aim for 45 minutes, 60 minutes. That means like if you're at the gym and then you're packing up, maybe you're taking a shower there, you're driving home. Like if this is like probably going to be more than an hour from the time you finish training before you're actually going to be in a place where you can have a meal, that means like have a snack or something that you keep on you. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can have a meal right afterwards, or you can have something as simple as like chocolate milk. Or something similar to that, or a protein bar and a banana, but just keeping something like that available so that you're making sure that you're recovering properly. It's going to help you with soreness as well as helping with that energy for that next workout.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what about during? Do you ever have people do intra workout? If yes, what, for example, would it depend on like how long they're training?
Yeah, I would say it depends on how long they're training and the intensity of it. So the longer and the harder you're training, the more glycogen and the more carbohydrate that your body is going to use. So glycogen being your stored fuel, and carbohydrate being also stored fuel, but the fuel, the food and beverages that you're consuming before and or during training. So that starts to deplete. And if you're like an endurance athlete, you've probably heard the term bonking, B-O-N-K. But a bonk is like when you've ran out of carbohydrates, you've ran out of glycogen, and you just physically can't do anything because you're out of a fuel source, or out of a fuel source that can be used quickly, right? So if someone's training for longer than 45 minutes at a moderate to hard intensity level, I say add something in. And it could be as simple as like a sports drink that has carbohydrates and electrolytes in it. And that can be easy to do, especially if you're someone like maybe you're playing pickup basketball or something, and you're not going to pull over and shove down a sandwich. But something like that you can drink may be easy. But then also like there's like chews. I like things chews are easy, or like little energy waffles. Different types of options there. But yeah, if you're going to be active for longer than an hour at that higher level, that higher intensity, then you probably would benefit from an additional fuel source during.
Awesome. Would you say so? In terms of, because we talked about the pre-workout when you had a specific kind of like amount, would you say like go for like 30 grams or something around there in terms of
Yeah, so
carbs?
I would say like so it's a 3-to-1 ratio for strength and power training. It's a 3-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein. So I would say like hit like 10 to 20 grams of protein. And then 3 times that would be your carbohydrate. So that would be what, 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrate. If I'm doing that math right. Yeah. So that's what you want to, so it's
Yeah.
actually a lot more carbohydrate than protein that we're going for. People would traditionally think, oh, it's protein, protein, protein. But we actually want more carbohydrates than protein afterwards for that refuel part. So yeah, 10 to 20 grams protein, 30 to 60 grams carbohydrate. If you were active for longer or more endurance style training, I'd bump those carbs up even higher.
Cool. Yeah, I have a few runners in our client group, so it's cool to also bring this up because I feel like especially there, I still see people like do so much, run so much, and then yeah, under fuel and almost like train almost every day. So this is super helpful. Now you did already talk a little bit about electrolytes, so I wanted to also get into like hydration because I feel like especially recently there's a lot of, or at least I'm getting a lot of ads for like LMNT and like those kind of supplements. Would you say anyone who trains can benefit from electrolytes? Like when should we take it? There's so much emphasis on like drinking water. Personally, I think I probably drink too much water compared to my electrolytes, so I got to fix that too. When would be a good time for someone to start, considering taking electrolytes?
Yeah, that's a good one because it's so variable, right? Like everybody sweats differently. The amount of sweat that you lose, the concentration of electrolytes in your sweat's different. Even the same person, you could be training at different intensities, different environments, and so you want to really look at like your conditions and your training. So if I know I'm a salty sweater, which means like I'm like I can taste the salt coming down my forehead, or it's like I can see crystals, white crystals on my skin, or my shirt, it's like I get the white stain on my shirt or my hat from training. You're probably a saltier sweater. And so you probably could benefit from an electrolyte before, during, and or after training. If you're training in a hot, humid environment, that would be another time. If you're training for long duration, that would be another time. But if you're someone who's like going for a walk, or you're in an air conditioned environment and you're not really breaking a sweat, you don't need electrolytes. You don't need them. Like we're essentially putting them in to replace what we're losing so we can maintain our fluid balance. If we don't get enough electrolytes in, we'll probably notice if we're drinking a lot of water. If we drink a lot of plain water, we don't drink a lot of electrolytes, which a lot of gym goers do, they'll see that their pee is clear. My pee is so clear. I pee all the time. You're probably not getting enough electrolytes because if your pee is clear, it's probably a sign that you're not absorbing all of the fluids that you're actually taking in, and you could benefit from some more sodium likely. Or if you're peeing frequently, it could just mean that you're chugging a lot of plain water at once. So for most people, like plain water is probably great for them, but for those more active people, those heavier sweaters, and in certain conditions, longer duration exercise, I would definitely consider adding in some electrolytes.
Cool. And you mostly want to get salt, right?
Salt, yeah.
Yeah. Still one of those too, where a lot of people are, trying to do not have too much salt, or they're looking on the label for sodium. Would you like? I guess it's hard to say. I know Element T has like 1,000 milligrams in one packet. I've never used it, by the way. I just remember looking it up.
Yeah.
Is there a specific amount to aim for? Like let's say someone is like really into training, they get a good session in, like they're sweaty, they want to get some electrolytes. What's kind of like something to do? Would you go with something like Element T or like a sports drink? Maybe just salt your food. Like, is that enough?
It's so hard to like say generalized because again, it's so individualized. Um,
Yeah.
It really is. Like there are different, you can get sweat patches, like Gatorade has one and different companies have them where you can like put them on and they'll measure your sweat during a workout and will actually measure your sodium losses to tell you if you're like a high, so you lose a lot of sodium or salt or not so much. And so probably like doing something like more individualized would be like the best bet. But generally like I would reserve your LMNT for your heavier sweaters, right? And your saltier sweaters. And then something like, you know, your liquid IV, your drip drops kind of more mid-range. That might be a more, and those ones are more like heavily marketed. That's probably more appropriate. I see some products that are like your sports drinks that may have enough for some people for like a light sweater. But then you have like drinks that are coconut water based that don't have hardly any sodium at all. And those ones probably are not enough sodium for the average gym goer even. Which wasn't a very specific answer, but I'm sorry. It's such a broad. There's so many factors.
Exactly. No, that's totally cool. I know. It's always like it depends, and it's hard to say, especially with that. I'm just curious because I've been getting so many questions about that, and like I've tried to look into this too, and I'm like, well, we probably don't need to worry about it yet. You know what I mean? But you know how it is. There's so much marketing. Like people get distracted by so many different like supplements, and it's hard to. I mean, speaking of supplements and social media, right? Like, it's just a mess right now. It just gets worse and worse, you know.
It really does. It really does.
So that being said, yeah, like that's why I like your content as well, because you're basically just joking about all this stuff. You know? It's kind of crazy if you think about it. Like the stuff that gets just pushed on people and how people are being misled. You know, it's pretty bad.
There's so much money in it.
It's a rant for.
There's so much money in it.
I know. Yeah, that's why.
That's why. I mean, but that's been going around for you know. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying, but that's been like, I mean, there's always been someone peddling quick fixes, snake oil, you know, for forever, right? Like that's always been a thing. So it always will be a thing. If there's money in selling somebody on something, true or not, people will be doing it. And so it's a hundreds of billions of dollars in the supplement industry, and there's probably only a handful of ones that I would actually ever recommend.
100%, which is wild if you think about it, because that's a lot of money, like hundreds of billions of dollars, and it's a lot of resources to help people. You know what I mean? And they're just not getting the help they need. Speaking of supplements, in that case, what would be some? If you're like, hey, you know, someone's dialed, right? We don't want to start with supplements, but someone's dialed in. They eat well, they fuel. What are some that you would potentially recommend? Or that are generally safe?
Yeah, creatine would be like one that I can recommend to almost anybody, whether they're someone who is like an average gym goer or beyond or not. Like there's so many different benefits of creatine potentially. We're talking about performance. It helps with your more explosive movements. So your jump, your sprint, your Olympic lift, that's fueled by the phosphocreatine pathway. So by having more creatine, we're able to create more of that energy essentially. But it also helps with maintaining muscle mass, growing muscle mass. So whether you're in a gain period, a maintain period, or if you're in a deficit period, creatine can be helpful. It also helps with cognitive benefits. So like there's some cognitive benefits with it. It can help with protection from like the severity of a traumatic brain injury or concussion. It can help with repair of that. It can even be some helpful for neurodegenerative disorders. So creatine, shout it from the rooftops, super science-backed, evidence-based, been around for a long time. Creatine monohydrate is the one you're looking for. 5 grams of that. You don't need to load. You don't need to cycle off of it. You can take 5 grams. Generally recognized as safe for even, your maybe even high school age athletes that might be in collision head contact kind of sports could be beneficial there. So creatine is one. A good like omega-3 supplement is great for a lot of people, specifically with EPA and DHA, which are types of fatty acids. These ones are important for brain health, but also for inflammation and a host of other things. A lot of people don't get enough omega-3s. You guys probably do a pretty good fish intake out of Norway though, huh?
Yeah, it's all right. That's what I thought moving here as well. But it's all right. I feel like they export most of it.
Oh, okay. So the fish oil,
but
creatine,
it's all right.
Yeah. A good protein powder is helpful. You don't need it. You can certainly get in enough food in your protein in your diet without a protein powder. But having that for convenience factors, or if you're you don't have any kind of protein readily available and you need to like get in some for the day, having a good quality, well tested whey protein or pea or soy if you're vegan, vegetarian, or don't do whey for whatever reason. What else? Cherry juice, tart cherry juice is less of a supplement, but kind of like more of a functional food. But tart cherry juice, super helpful post exercise or even before bed. It's got some different benefits, reducing inflammation, reducing muscle soreness, and also has naturally occurring melatonin, can help with your sleep cycles. Those are the big ones. Vitamin D. Most people are vitamin D deficient, and there aren't a lot of great food sources of vitamin D. We get some from the sun, but not everybody sees the same kind of sun all year round, and not all the sun is as effective for building up that vitamin D that we need in our bodies. It does have an effect on performance, does have an effect on energy, and effect on our immune health. So we saw that a lot with like COVID and everything. Vitamin D status, people that had better vitamin D status fared better um, with COVID than others. So yeah, so those are the big ones I would say.
Awesome. Cool. Covered a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
I have one more point here I want to bring up.
Okay.
I'm just firing questions at you.
I'm ready.
Good. No, so we talked about recovery a lot, but we can't talk about recovery without talking rest days, right? I feel like this is one of those two where people don't want to hear it. We want to train every single day, preferably twice a day. At least people who really get into it, But we need to recover.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get this conversation too with your athletes, right? Where it's like, hey, no, we just want to keep training, but you need to rest. What would be like your general recommendation there for, let's say, someone who's like training, has a normal job?
Man, I would say like if you like athletes, we don't go full go every day. Like there's off days, and there's days that are like lower volume, doing some like accessory work or doing some like yoga or something like that, like active recovery. Like athletes aren't on a go all the time, and they also have a competitive season and they have a period of time where they take a break. Like, why would regular gym goers like, these are the top of the top, right? These are the people arguably in the best shape, highest performing, whatever, and probably have the bodies that everybody wants. They're not going hard all of the time. Why would you? Why would you? Things are going to break down. You're not giving your body enough time to recover. So you're not going to grow. If you're trying to grow muscle, you're trying to build strength, you're not going to see that as effective if we're not giving our body proper time to recover. Same thing with people that don't sleep enough. If you're sleeping like 5-6 hours a night, you're cutting yourself short on repair and growth, especially like your men and everybody out there. Like growth hormone, a lot of that is peaking, and a lot of repair and growth is happening overnight. And so if we're cutting our sleep short and we're not getting enough of our Z's, then we're not getting enough gains either. So recovery and rest is a super important part of anybody's of health and performance.
I love that you said that, because that is so true, right? And I guess it's social media as well, where people think they see these athletes and it's all go go go, and it's go hard and whatever, especially with like all the motivational videos these days, the reels. But it's like, no, these athletes also they take rest days. They don't go hard every single day. It's not like you need to compete every day at the gym. Yeah. It's training, right? You're training. You're not competing every single time.
I was to say, on top of that, like they do so many hours of body work and treatment, like massages and getting things worked out. And they have all these people in their corner helping them with supplements and diet and stretching and all the sorts of things. So like they're doing way more than you're doing to recover, right? And they're training less than a lot of these like hardcore people are.
100%. And that's stuff that we got to remember. And I try to educate people, but I'm glad you bring this up. And it's the stuff that's like less interesting. It's less sexy, right? Like we want to go hard. We want to go to the gym. We don't want to be sleeping. We don't want to, slow down or do some rolling or massages or whatever it is. Like, no. But it's so crucial. It's key. Like, we need to do that stuff.
We really do.
Or we need our rest days at least. I don't think like the massages and everything is going to be, doable for a lot of people with jobs and
No,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
We need our
It's an
rest.
example of like they're not only resting, but they're also doing all of these other things to maintain and recover their body.
Yeah.
But that can be done in so many different. You can stretch, you can foam roll, you can do different things without having to get a massage therapist coming over to your house every other day.
Yeah, for sure. No, but either way, I mean, like either way, those athletes, they spend way more time like with the recovery side of things compared to someone who's also has a job and also has kids or needs to go to school and
Yeah.
So that being said, so what's next for you? Like, what do you have kind of like coming up? What are you up to?
Oh man, that's a good question. Yeah, I'm doing a bunch of different stuff right now. So, we talked about social media briefly in the beginning. It's always kind of been like a passion area of mine to just kind of continue to spread nutrition education, but debunk a lot of the misinformation out there. Like I said, I fell into a lot of the traps of diet culture and was really struggling with this personally. And so I've made my platform kind of a space to hopefully help people that struggle with that and hopefully not having them go down the same pathway of just wasting their money and their time and their energy and their health on these false promises of products and different things. So I'll keep doing some more of that. I'm continuing to work with athletes in a private practice capacity. And then maybe you'll see me with another team one of these days. Who knows?
Awesome. So for now, it's mostly one-on-one then?
Yeah, mostly one-on-one. And I've also got some, I'm doing some coaching for like students and in my area. So aspiring sports dietitians, I'm doing a little bit of career coaching as well. And that's kind of been fun, just kind of help the next crop of sports dietitians coming to the space.
Awesome. Cool. Love this chat. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Where can people find you, Lastly,
okay. Yeah. Jessica, the sports RD, RD for registered dietitian. So Instagram, TikTok, Jessica, the sports RD, and then my website, jessicathesportsrd.com.
Awesome. I'll make sure to link that all in the show notes. Thanks again, Jessica. And to the listener, I will talk to you again very soon.
See ya. Thanks.